I'm back with another LEGO Transformer. This time around, it is a G1 version of everybody's favorite Spinosaurus, Scorn, who of course is from the movie Age of Extinction, in which he was a big ball of pointy metal, just like every other movie Transformer. So, I liked his design anyway, so I decided I wanted to try and, translate it into being G1, with light gray, yellow, red, and white, and all that. For a size comparison, here is the Age of Extinction Scorn. He is actually bigger than him. He's not quite Voyager sized, but he's definitely bigger than the Deluxe. And I don't have the new Voyager yet, so I can't really do that comparison. I also don't know if I really will be getting that Voyager, because it kind of looks kind of weird. But anyways, this Dino mode has some articulation. It's got a ball joint at the base of the neck, so you can look at stuff. He's got then a ball joint at the head, which is kind of hindered by the shaping of the head and where the joint is. But you can get like a somewhat convincing kind of like looking to the left look. You can also look up. It's a bit unnatural looking, but it works more or less. Then he's got opening mouth. But obviously you wouldn't open it that much, it'd be more like that. His dino arms theoretically would have articulation, but practically they can't really do much because their joint is kind of locked in place by how it's attached. But you can sort of wiggle them. And they would have a bicep swivel if it weren't for the fact that those parts are incredibly tight, and I don't feel like breaking it on camera trying to do that. He also has a elbow bend, wrist swivel, and a bit of up and down in the claw. I don't know if that's out of focus or not. Then he's got a ball joint at the base of the tail, and a ball joint in the kind of the top of the tail, and then nothing else because it's all one solid piece, more or less. Then in the legs, things get a bit weird because of the way the legs transform. They have joints in them, but not necessarily joints you can use. Like, it's got this bend here, then this bend here, and you might be able to kind of work a pose out of it, but I tend to just leave them in a sort of stock still, maybe bend the tail kind of out like that, put his head like that, and then there you have Dino. And one thing I did is, if you have one of these little LEGO flames, you can open his mouth, and one of these studs there's teeth. The reason they're here is for this functionality. One of them is a regular stud, one of them is one of the newer kinds. Well, I say new, but it's new that they're being used more commonly. They've existed for a while now. As you can see, he can then have flame coming out of his mouth, like a G1 Dinobot, and occasionally the movie Dinobots. Sadly, the tooth tends to come off with the flame. He does have some other weapons which you could kinda, sorta, like slap onto him in this mode, like his sword. I guess you could do that. You could have him hold his gun in his mouth if you really wanted to, and it would look dumb. But anyways, the last thing to show is I made this stand rather quickly while I was taking the pictures for this creation. It was intended for the robot mode, but I suppose you could always put it on the Dino mode if you really wanted to. It kind of looks stupid in this mode, but it also broke the creation. But yeah. Anyways, I think it's time to get into transformation. Okay, so transforming him, you want to start with the legs and you want to pull them down like this, then rotate them on themselves. And once you do that, they can fold up on themselves and peg into place. Then one of the dino toes will flip forward and the other dino toe will stay as a heel. Then you can bring the leg down, rotate it, bring the dino thigh over as a skirt. There you go. I'm going to try and do that a little bit clearer and more in view on this side. Yeah, that has a tendency to come off because it's only attached by one stud. And then there you have the lower half of a robot with the upper half of a dinosaur. Then you want to come to the side here, rotate this little tile, and spin them at the waist. Then you can come to the spine here and lift the spine up and back. And now for one of the more finicky parts, because it tends to just want to break, because it's kind of, I don't even know if it really has the clearance to work, but you have to kind of just fold that up past the chest, the shoulder pad, that is. Yeah, see, that tends to happen because it's a very tight space to work with. Then you can kind of just bring what will be the arms up and out of the way, so that then if you just kind of bring these dino arms up and back, then this whole lower body part, being on a ball joint, can then come up, rotate, and end up down and fit into place. And one thing you will notice is the way he transforms, there's kind of a hunch in his chest automatically. I kind of like that. It adds a little bit of a, I guess, kind of dynamic look to his posture. I guess you could say, oh, it's bad that it's not articulated and you can't like decide, but I think it looks good, so I don't really care that it's stuck like that the whole time. Then these just come out to the side and you rotate back the yellow panels, and this is very, very delicate right here. And there you have one spine done and out of the way. You have the spines now in the right position, and then the arms fold into themselves, the claws fold back, and then they fold into place. So it's very much a fold, fold, fold. And they kind of end up just this neat little black thing on his back. Okay, now for probably the easiest part of the transformation. Bring this down, rotate it, straighten it out, fold it up. Then, right from one of the easiest parts, one of the other annoying parts, because you need to get another piece for it to work. 1 second. I use this. You're going to want to rotate at the dino head, fold the dino head up, then take this, plug it in, then you can use that as leverage to get the little tiny hand out. Now for the last part, which is bringing the head up, and then rotating it 180 degrees, then rotating it 180 degrees on the ball joint, then folding it back down. And then you have a robot mode. And there you have Scorn in his robot mode, and in my opinion this is where he shines. Not only do I really like his proportions, but he's actually got a fair amount of articulation, which I'll get into now. He's got rotation in the head, which can be a bit finicky because of just how tight the connection is, but it can let him look left, right, all that. Then he's got a little bit of up and down. It can start to look awkward because he has a head on a platform, kinda, so you're just moving the platform the head is on. But if done right, you can kind of get a decent amount of somewhat decent amount of up and down movement. Then his arms can go up about that much, and then you can start to move the shoulder pad even more to get further up, but then it starts to look kind of weird. His shoulders can go forward, and obviously they can go, if they don't get cut, back a little bit. You can also break in the waist. That's a big problem due to how much little space there is in the transformation. He's very fragile in the abdomen. He has about a little under 90-degree bend at the arm, and as you can see, there's a big old dino head hanging off the wrist. And then you could kind of count this as a wrist swivel. If you really want to, you could kind of try and be a little bit more like the Deluxe and pretend that's the arm, but I think that looks kind of dumb. Obviously the same articulation in the shoulder on this arm if it didn't break. But then he's got a lance arm, obviously, so this can bend 90 degrees, and this, if you really want to, can bend 90 degrees. And then one thing I think is really cool, because I don't do it super often, I gave him just a full-on waist swivel. And I don't usually give characters waist swivels. Usually it's either a ball joint in the waist or nothing at all. So it's kind of, you could argue that a ball joint is better. But like saying about just having a swivel in the waist, it just feels kind of smooth, and like, it's not something I usually do on LEGO Transformers. So it's kind of cool, especially obviously on a character I really like, because he's a Spinosaurus, and Spinosauruses are the best dinosaurs. And if you don't believe that, I think you should just go away. He has kind of weird waist skirts because they actually connect on the thigh, not on the waist. So they still function though, because they're on a slider, so then they can get out of the way to allow him to do splits. And let's see, I haven't really tested this. He can do a tree, as you can see, he can do the tree pose, but he can also do the full Van Damme. Then obviously these can also rotate on the joint, so that if you want to put them forward, put the leg forward, but keep the skirt more or less looking like it's still connected, you can do stuff like that. And this is how far forward his leg can move. And then backward, it goes like that. Then at the knee, get 90 degrees of bend, more or less, yeah. Sadly, no double joint, unless you break the knee, double joint it. Then in which case, yeah, you can get double joint, but that requires kind of transforming it a little bit. Then he's got super big heels, and although they can fold up, I find they actually can support the weight pretty well. So he doesn't have much trouble standing up, unless you're just like breaking him. So yeah, there you have him, and that's all cool and all, but personally, this is not the way I like to do the robot mode. I included this hand because I knew there would be some people who would be like, oh, Scorn had a hand, he has to have a hand. I don't want him to have a hand, I want him to be full-on Beast Wars Megatron levels of head hand. And as I'm doing this, the way I'm doing it is dumb, and I'm breaking the figure, so I might as well take this as a chance to show it off. That's why it breaks all the time. It's only attached by 2 studs and a ball joint. But yeah, I prefer to go head hand on it. And I think that looks just way, way cooler. It somewhat hinders articulation if you want it to look the best. It can only bend that much at the elbow. But if you want it to bend more, just have to turn the neck, then turn the head, and it will just bring the head slightly in. I just don't like how close to the thigh it looks when it's down. So when you're bending it, you can just do it like that and it looks fine. But when it's not being bent, I like to do that. So it still more or less has the same articulation. You just kind of have to mess with it a bit to get it to work. And this is the place where all the accessories actually start to make sense. Like his gun can either get pigged up onto a shoulder pad, if I could get this to work. It's kind of being very difficult. Yeah, I can peg up on his shoulder pad like a shoulder cannon, since a lot of the G1 Dinobots, or just G1 characters in general, would have shoulder-mounted guns. Or he can just, hold it in his dino head hand. Because when your hand is literally the jaw of a dinosaur, you definitely need a little dual-barreled pistol. Definitely. It's not overkill at all. Of course, in this mode, the flame could still attach. Don't know really why you would want to do that. But the weapon I like to use is the sword. And I'm just going to show this sword off in more detail right now. It is the large Nexonite orange sword piece from Clay's Battle Mech. I forget what they're called. It's got one of the Nexonite kind of pyramid pieces there, and then the hand guard is a literal flame. I kind of like that. And I should probably bring it on camera if I'm going to put it in his hand. Just kind of press the heels down. And then he can just chomp down on it. And you have him holding a sword, and he looks rather cool in my opinion. And then of course this is the mode the stand was built for. So you can come onto his butt, spread the legs, peg it on. And it's not super tall because I made the stand specifically during the photography for a singular pose I was doing. So it's not really designed to be actually all that useful. Sorry about that. The camera ran out of space. Anyways, this is what the stand was made for, and I think this is how the figure looks best. Anyway, that is G1 Scorn. That's all I can really say about him. About all those other whips I have, I just kind of need to order their parts on Bricklink, and that requires money. Obviously, if I just don't have the money or the time to order stuff on Bricklink, I just can't order stuff on Bricklink. And then I can only build stuff with the parts I have, like I did here. And sometimes I just don't build stuff with the parts I have. And that's why the channel is not very frequently posted on. Anyways, see you in another 2 months probably.